Hello, and welcome to the York-Simcoe Federal All Candidates Debate. My name is Karen Wolfe, founder of the Georgina Post and host of Politically Speaking here on Rogers TV. This debate is being produced by the Georgina Chamber of Commerce in partnership with Rogers TV Georgina. Now, due to COVID-19 safety protocols, we were unable to host a public debate with a live audience in attendance. Instead, this tape debate using the Zoom technology will still allow our constituents to meet the candidates, learn about their platforms, and make an informed decision before casting their ballot. In the studio, all protocols are being followed by our staff, and a safety plan is in place. In an effort to cover topics relevant to York Region residents, the Georgina Chamber invited the public to submit questions for all candidates prior to this event. All questions received on the Chamber website were vetted to meet time constraints and to avoid duplication. While we may not get to every question that was submitted, we hope to cover as many topics as possible. You have the ability to watch this debate on television and online, thanks to Rogers TV Georgina. And we really are very fortunate to have Rogers TV Georgina in our community, dedicated to informing our residents. This debate will air multiple times on Channel 10, live streamed on rogerstv.com, on the Rogers TV YouTube channel, and on georginachamber.com leading up to Election Day. We'll be live on election night, covering the results close to home and across the country. At this time, I would like to welcome the candidates and thank them for their dedication and their efforts. It is now my pleasure to introduce our four candidates in the York-Simcoe Riding who will be seeking your vote on September 20th. First up, we have Daniela Johnson with the Liberal Party of Canada. Second, Michael Lauder, the People's Party of Canada. Third, Benjamin Jenkins, the New Democratic Party. And fourth is Scott Davidson, the Conservative Party of Canada. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few of the ground rules that we'll be following throughout this debate. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes at the beginning for an opening statement. The order in which the candidates will speak was determined prior to the debate by a random draw, and that order will be reversed for the 2 minutes they each have for closing statements. The draw also determined the order in which they were introduced. I will rotate through the candidates, giving each one an opportunity to answer a question first, and that will be followed by answers from the rest of the panel. Answers to the questions will be limited to 1 minute. Candidates wishing an opportunity to comment on something they've heard will raise their hands to be recognized by the moderator prior to the next question. Rebuttal opportunities may be restricted due to time constraints. We do have a timekeeper on the screen to let the candidates know how much time is remaining for their statements and their answers. Although you cannot see the time keeper at home, this will allow the candidates to know when they have 30 seconds left and 10 seconds remaining. At the end of their time, mics will be muted and we will go on to the next candidate. We are looking forward to a respectful and informative hour of discussion. We have an important decision ahead of us, and I encourage everyone to make the most of our time together. And so without further ado, we're going to start our discussions with opening statements. I want to remind the candidates again, you each have 2 minutes for your opening remarks, and I would like to invite Daniela Johnson with the Liberal Party of Canada to begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniela Johnson, and I'm your federal Liberal candidate for York-Simcoe. The past 19 months have been challenging for everyone. I come from a very close family. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Jamaica, and along with my parents, instilled in me strong values that I carry with me to this day. The values of hard work, giving back to community, and standing up for those who need it most. But last year, my family went through a very difficult time. My grandmother passed away, and because of the pandemic and the lockdowns, I couldn't be there with her. Many of you have heard of similar situations or have maybe experienced something similar. As a result of the lessons and values that my grandparents taught me, I've spent my life working to make a positive impact in the lives of others. In university, I championed mental health and was appointed the first mental health issues commissioner. I started my career in government and have worked with community leaders, businesses, and government partners to deliver results where it matters most. As a consultant in the nonprofit sector, I've supported organizations to have a greater impact in communities in Ontario and across Canada. But now, as a 32-year-old wife, sister, soon-to-be mother expecting my first child, I'm running to be your Liberal MP because you deserve effective leadership. We are at a critical point in time, and you deserve someone who will fight for you in Ottawa and someone who can actually get things done. Whether you're a farmer, you're concerned about internet access, or you need support as a small business, I will fight for you. Getting into politics was never about me. I'm here to continue what I am most passionate about, and that means fighting to keep you safe and healthy by finishing the fight against COVID-19, making sure we have better healthcare, affordable housing, and childcare, and working to address climate change now so we can ensure a better future for our children. I'm asking you to help me ensure more effective representation for York-Simcoe.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniela. We're going to have to go on to our next candidate, and I'm going to ask Michael Lauder, please, for your opening statement.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to everybody working behind the scenes to get this done. As you said before, it must have been quite tricky to get everything sorted out at the 11th hour. My name is Michael Lauder, and I'm an immigrant to Canada. Been living in the York-Simcoe region for just over 17 years now. I'm raising two beautiful children here, attending school. And even as an immigrant, I cherish the fact that I can call myself Canadian. Coming to Canada, we landed up in Sudbury from South Africa. And I attended college there and got a diploma in public relations, and have had varied employment opportunities within Canada, traveled throughout North America, Central America. I spent some time importing and buying products for large retail companies on 3 continents. But every time I was leaving the job site, I was coming home to Canada, a place that I felt I belonged. Recently, I get asked quite often actually why I would choose to run as a federal candidate again. And the answer is there's very many reasons that I did this again. And part of it is I cannot take the role of the federal government in our lives lightly. And I think we're at a point where we have been let down by our representatives instead of we're being dictated to from the top down. It's part of the reason that I ran again for the second time. And I believe that an open, transparent government, which represents the people, not the other way around, is the way that we should be going. We need to have a common sense approach to governing such a large country. It doesn't mean that we have to have a large government. The bigger the government, the more money the taxpayer has to spend to maintain it. And the PPC stands for a smaller government, more accountable, and less bureaucracy to get in the way of actually achieving goals.
Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate that. Our next speaker is going to be Benjamin Jenkins with the New Democratic Party.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let me first say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to speak today. Thank you to the workers behind the scenes, because I know how difficult it is to set up a shoot this quickly. And thank you to everyone who's chosen to watch. I hope today to speak with you about issues that affect the ordinary people of the York-Simcoe Riding. We face an unprecedented climate crisis, while the basic necessities of life, shelter, healthcare, food grow increasingly unaffordable. These problems are not new, and solutions to them do exist. They've existed for some time and have been implemented in other countries and in other parts of Canada, but they require holding the powerful accountable and demanding that people be put before profit. This has rarely made them popular with those who hold the levers of power. These solutions require a reshaping of the way we think, away from treating housing as a commodity to treating it as a right. away from thinking of environmental damage as something we can only mitigate to something we can solve, away from treating exploitation as something normal and just to be endured to the unacceptable imposition that it actually is. Too often, promises for a better world are treated as fantasies, so rarely do we see the powerful being held accountable for what they do to people like you. Today, I want to show you that you can change that. Today, I want to give you cause for hope. The NDP is here for you and will fight for you. You are not alone. You are not powerless. We are ordinary people who realize that a better world is possible, and we invite you to join us. My name is Benjamin Jenkins. I am the NDP candidate for York-Simcoe, and I will fight day and night for our people, our communities, and our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. And now we'd like to hear from Scott Davidson, the Conservative Party of Canada.
Well, thank you, Karen. Hello there. I'm Scott Davidson, your Conservative candidate here in York-Simcoe, coming to you live from Lake Simcoe on Georgina Island. And thank you to Rogers TV and the Georgina Chamber for organizing this all candidates meeting. York-Simcoe has been my home my entire life. I grew up here, owned and operated businesses here, and have raised a family here. For just over 2 years, I have dedicated myself to making our community even a better place to live while serving as Member of Parliament for York-Simcoe. During the last election 2 years ago, I spoke about how York-Simcoe residents found themselves on the outside looking in. It was clear that the Liberal government was completely out of touch with the needs of our community and the people that live here. This has only gotten worse throughout this pandemic. Backed by the NDP, the Greens, the Liberals have squandered Canadians' money without any regard for the consequences, and worse, without helping those who need it most. This election is about how we get Canada back on track and rebuild our economy, our jobs, and our way of life. Conservatives have a plan to secure the future that restores confidence, transparency, accountability to government, and to assure Canada is never unprepared for a crisis again. This is a plan for all Canadians, including communities like ours that were forgotten by the Liberals. Not only will it get our economy back on track, it will focus on issues Canadians care about, including those that live right here in York-Simcoe. The Conservative plan will tackle climate change, protect our environment, by funding important initiatives such as the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund that was canceled by the Liberal government. It will also prioritize reconciliation with First Nations communities, commit to increased healthcare funding, make life more affordable for families, seniors, and students, and will support small businesses, farmers, and workers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davidson. Actually, I want to thank you all for those statements. And now to our lineup of questions. We'll rotate who goes first as we go along, and I'm going to ask Michael Lauder with the People's Party of Canada to begin with an answer to this question. What is your plan for mitigating and adapting to the consequences of climate change?
Well, climate change is such a topic of discussion all over the world. We understand that the climate is changing, and we also understand that taxing people to death to be able to clean the environment or the atmosphere just doesn't work. It doesn't make life any more affordable for anybody. There are processes in place that we can clean the environment with. Our party will actually withdraw us from the Paris Accord because these are unrealistic greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. We are going to stop spending billions of dollars to sending billions of dollars to developing countries to help them reduce their emissions and focus on Canada. And we are actually going to abolish the Liberal government's carbon tax and leave it to provincial governments, where it should be, to adopt programs to reduce emissions. And that's if they want to. We're going to abolish subsidies for green technology and let private players come in and develop actual profitable and efficient alternatives to the ones that we currently see.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lauder. Now I'm going to ask Benjamin Jenkins to answer that question.
Thank you. So I want to start by saying that the NDP's platform is the only one that will fit us within the IPCC's guidelines to keep us under 1.5 degrees. We are going to end all subsidies for oil and gas companies, which I believe the Liberal government spent about 18 billion of your dollars on last year, and we're going to shift that into funding a greenification of our power production and of our transportation systems. We're going to make sure that when we do so as well, we are going to get all the jobs that are producing, that are allowing us to produce that new infrastructure, being good paying union jobs that pay a dignified wage. We're going to make sure that we partner with Indigenous communities as well, because they often deal with the forefront of climate degradation, and use their traditional knowledge to make sure that as we protect our natural spaces, we do so in a way that helps everyone everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Scott Davidson from the Conservative Party of Canada next, please.
Thanks for the question, Karen. And I am the first member of parliament that has ever stood in Lake Simcoe, standing up for Lake Simcoe and hip waders. And the Conservative Party of Canada is going to start with the reinstatement of the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund. I am proud to be the member of parliament that put forth Bill C-204 in the House of Commons, working with the Greens and the NDP to ban the export of plastic waste for final disposal so Canada can, take account for their plastic waste. Also, we are going to introduce a low carbon savings account for Canadians, and we are also going to promote zero emission vehicles that will mandate requiring 30% of all light duty vehicles sold to be zero emissions by 2030.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Daniela Johnson with the Liberal Party of Canada next, please.
Thanks. So for the future of our children, we cannot, under any circumstances, be aligned with a party that denies climate change or that does not support working to protect the environment. In my many conversations with farmers, for example, the one thing I've heard is that there's a focus on climate change and sustainability for our future. In opening comments, we heard Scott say, mislead us in saying that Liberals cut funding. And Scott, that's factually inaccurate. We've rolled that into the Great Lakes Cleanup Fund, and we will work towards a goal of net zero emissions by 2050, ending plastic waste, and protecting our freshwater like Lake Simcoe.
Thank you very much, all of you. Yes, Benjamin?
Just like to make a rebuttal, if that's okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask Daniela, if her party is committed to cutting fossil fuels, what is going to happen with the ongoing construction of the Trans Mountain Pipeline? And I'd pose the same question to Scott and Mr. Lauder here as well. Would your parties be willing to oppose the construction of new pipelines? Because according to the IPCC, we cannot maintain warming under 2 degrees if the oil sands is converted into gasoline and burned.
Danielle, do you want to respond?
Sure. Our party is committed to focusing on the environment and ensuring a sustainable future, a safe and sustainable future for everyone. That is what we'll continue to do. And that's what I'm committed to doing in York-Simcoe, and making sure that, we're making environmentally kind decisions and taking the community into account.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to move on to another question, if I can. Affordability. Affordability is a huge issue right now. Prices in all sectors of the economy are escalating, and that is having a huge impact on Canadians who are restricted by fixed income and low wages. How do you propose that we help our most vulnerable citizens? And I'm going to ask Benjamin Jenkins with the NDP party to go first.
All right, thank you. So this is obviously an issue that I hear a lot about, whether it's people living on fixed incomes, or I spoke with one man in the riding just the other day who works his 40 hours a week and still has to decide whether he's going to have a roof over his head or food on the table at the end of the month, because he just can't afford both. 1 in 3 people in Ontario spend more than 30% of their income on rent. I know, I'm one of them. It's just not something that we can deal with. So housing is going to be a crucial part in bringing down cost of living. The NDP is going to add 500,000 new housing units over the next 10 years, half of that within the next 5, chiefly through requirements in new construction, working with nonprofits and co-ops and direct subsidies. But that's just a start. Unless we adopt something like the Vienna model, and start treating housing like a human right, we're going to be right back where we started in just a few years, because the forces that led to this housing crisis have not gone away and are not going away until we deal with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Scott Davidson with the Conservative Party of Canada next, please.
Thanks, Karen. And we know that affordability is very concerning right now. And it is one, I hear this every day on the doors right now. Grocery bills are up 5%. Cost of fuel is up. People buying tires is up. And we know inflation is the highest it has been in 20 years. But the Conservative Party has a plan. We've got a detailed plan to get inflation under control. We are going to lower food prices by increasing penalties for price fixing. We are going to make banking more affordable by letting Canadians connect with more companies offering banking services. We are going to lower cell phone and internet bills by preventing any competition behavior by the big telcos and build digital infrastructure and invest in communication facilities. We are going to stand up to corporate Canada, reject mergers and acquisitions to reduce competition. That reduces competition to lead to layoffs and higher prices in Canada. And we're going to secure Canadians' finances.
Thank you very much. Daniela Johnson, Liberal Party of Canada next, please.
When I look around at our housing market, I think of my younger brother and so many other young people where owning a home just seems impossible. When I've been knocking on doors and speaking to residents, this is something that affects everyone, from single parents and young people looking to enter the market to middle-aged, families worrying about their children and seniors who are wanting to downsize affordably. And that's why it's important to help residents to save for a down payment faster, to reduce the monthly costs of mortgages, and to make the processes of buying a home easier and more open and more transparent. And our Liberal government has a plan to make this happen.
Thank you very much. And Michael Lauder, the People's Party of Canada.
Building more homes is a short-term fix to the problem that we're facing. If we don't control the cost of those homes, part of that is the inflation that we have seen over the last little while. The Bank of Canada is printing money so that they can back the Liberal spending over the last couple of years. And it's only part of the solution. We would also stop foreign people who do not live in Canada, who don't intend to live in Canada, from purchasing homes, reducing the amount of competition for those homes. A Scotiabank study actually showed that our population growth from 2015 to 2019 to the present has driven the price of housing up simply by supply and demand. And as we continue to grow our population, that price is just going to keep continuing going up. So we need to curb that and be responsible with our immigration policies and maintain a level of housing versus how many people we have in the population.
Thank you very much. And I see Mr. Davidson, you'd like to comment?
Oh, thanks, Karen. I would just like to say to Daniela, the Liberal government has spent $70 billion on their housing plan, and they've had 6 years in government. And we are faced with this housing crisis. And I would also like to rebut to the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund. All that money went to the Great Lakes. The Deputy Prime Minister stood on the shores in Barrie and promised $40 million for Lake Simcoe. I'm old school. I believe in someone's word and a handshake, and we're still waiting for that money in York-Simcoe.
Thank you. Daniela, would you like to respond?
Sure. I would turn back to you, Scott, and say, what have you done locally to ensure that we've addressed the housing affordability crisis that we're facing now? How many times have you stood up in the House to bring this forward and make some progress in this area?
I'm going to cut it off. We've got time issues. So I'm going to go to the next question here. And I'm going to ask Scott Davidson actually to take this one first. Do you believe the federal government should implement a national vaccination passport? And please explain your answer.
Well, thanks for the question, Karen. And we know that this is a critical question that is at the doors right now. And I want to just say to everyone that I was vaccinated, my family was vaccinated. I encourage all Canadians to get vaccinated. But we also have to respect the health choices of Canadians. And we have to look at technology and provide more rapid testing. As far as a national proof of vaccine, if people want to go away, they're going to need that to travel to India. The domestic vaccine passport is the responsibility of the provincial government, the Doug Ford government. Nationally, I've said our position as the Conservative Party in Canada. We have to be compassionate right now. People have a lot of questions. And, you know, this election was called in the middle of a pandemic when people have all these questions, and they should be asking right now in the House of Commons regarding that, Karen.
Thank you very much. Daniela Johnson, please, the Liberal Party of Canada.
Great. You know, under our Liberal government, Canada is one of the leading countries when it comes to vaccinations. Vaccines that are free, safe, and effective. I too am double vaccinated, and I support anything that will keep our communities, our families safe. We're at a critical stage of a pandemic, and we need to decide now, how do we continue to move forward? And when we look around at different countries, where would you rather be? This pandemic has really been such a profound event in all of our lives, and things have changed beyond going back to the way we are, the way they were. So we need to work together to ensure that we keep everybody safe and healthy and fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you very much. Michael Lauder, the People's Party of Canada next, please.
We absolutely stand against a national vaccine passport. We will stand against a provincial, even it is a provincial matter in some cases, that we would say this isn't the right way to go. It is the start of segregating society into two levels, and segregation of any kind should be stopped in Canada. We're looking at booster shots now, where some people are telling me they're double vaxxed, and now they're being told that in order to remain able to use the vaccine passport, they need to have a booster shot. And they said, well, I've done my part. Why am I now being punished if I need to get a third booster shot? People do not want this. I know that there's polls online that are saying that we have an uptick of 70% plus that want to have vaccine passports. People I've spoken to have said absolutely not. And I am absolutely against a vaccine passport of any kind. A person's healthcare and their healthcare choices are their own business.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm going to ask the next question. Benjamin, sorry. I'm sorry. Could you please answer the vaccination passport question for us?
Yes. So for me, I grew up chiefly in Canada. I believe everyone except Michael here has. And as a result, he went to school in Canada at any sort of accredited school in Ontario. You had to receive 9 vaccines as a requirement for attendance. It's not an unprecedented thing to be asking for people to provide proof of vaccination or for the government to provide proof of vaccination. So the NDP has taken the stance that providing vaccine passports is a valuable tool in line with what medical experts have advised to making sure that we can come out of this pandemic sooner and better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Mr. Lauder would like to respond.
So I didn't attend public school in Canada. I didn't attend high school in Canada. My kids are, and the health, the immunization record that you have to show in Ontario, people can decline based on religious and conscious grounds, and they can still attend school. So we have people potentially within our school system who are not vaccinated against things like polio, smallpox, whooping cough, the MMRs. We have that potentially in the schools now. And we're not allowed to ask any parent about that child's vaccination record. So asking them about this vaccination record and telling people they need to have a vaccine passport to go and do something, to be part of society, we're not Pavlov's dogs that need to be able to be rewarded for doing something. We have our own choices to make, and we should stick with that situation.
Thank you very much. I'm going on to our next question. Healthcare is a hot topic this year. How do you believe the federal government can help, considering this is a provincial jurisdiction and they determine how the money is spent? And I'm going to ask Daniela Johnson with the Liberal Party of Canada to answer this question first.
Yeah, so our Liberal government will work to strengthen our universal public healthcare system and primary care and long-term care and mental health. We know mental health is something that affects all Canadians in one way or another. Personally, I have close family and friends who've struggled with mental health, and the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic have only made the situation worse. So we aren't facing a mental health crisis. We're in a mental health crisis, and as your MP in Ottawa, I'll absolutely ensure that healthcare and mental health care are a priority.
Okay, thank you very much. Michael Lauder with the People's Party of Canada. Would you go next, please?
Yep. So healthcare is absolutely a provincial level of responsibility, and the federal government needs to step out of the province's jurisdiction and allow them to actually develop and become more inventive in the way that they do their healthcare. We would, besides moving out of it, we would, in practice, Ottawa give up its goods and services tax and let the provincial and territorial governments occupy this fiscal room. And the GST is expected to bring in about $41 billion in revenues, almost the same amount that we're currently being transferred by Ottawa. Mental health is obviously something that has come out since we've been doing lockdowns, and people have been anxious, and there is a huge need for that. And that needs to be used. The provinces need to be able to sit down and say, we have this funding, we know what's coming, we know how we're going to make this work. Our healthcare system is top heavy with bureaucracy, and it shouldn't be that way.
Thank you very much. Benjamin Jenkins with the New Democratic Party. Would you go next, please?
I want to start just by saying that mental health care and mental health issues are not something that have just emerged since the pandemic started. They've always been with us. It's just that in many ways they are exacerbated because lack of access to community is something that seriously damages people's mental health. But we've had that's been predating it, and past governments have largely ignored providing for people's mental health. The NDP, the question asked, how can the federal government help the provinces and make sure that the provinces use money in a certain way? We do need to restart health transfers, which have been cut by previous governments. But we also can create programs like a federal pharmacare program, like a federal support for mental health care program, which are both in the NDP platform, which will see the provinces opt in to take part in those programs and then allow some federal direction to make sure everyone gets the coverage they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Davidson, you're next, please, with the Conservative Party of Canada.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Karen. And healthcare is very important to me as well. And, luckily we're getting a new nurse practitioner station in Sutton that burnt down, and we're so excited about that. But Canada's Conservatives are committed 100% to improving healthcare across Canada. We are going to massively boost healthcare transfers to the provinces, representing $60 billion over the next 10 years. Obviously, encourage employers to add mental health coverage to employees' benefit plans. We are going to have the 3-digit number for mental health. We are going to improve long-term care homes by devoting $3 billion to renovate long-term care homes to improve care to residents. And we have an opioid crisis that we have to address. And as you know, Karen, York-Simcoe is one of the only ridings that doesn't have a hospital in it. And I will always champion to see that people have health care in York-Simcoe.
Thank you. I believe that Michael Lauder would like to respond.
Yes. Scott, in 2019, you said you were going to work on getting a hospital in our riding because we are one that doesn't have a hospital. I haven't seen anything happen with that. I know it's a long process, but an update for the constituents would be good. The other thing that I wanted to say was the mental health aspect of everything has, as Benjamin has said, has always existed. The current situation does not work when you want, like I believe the PBO in 2019 said that the NDP package for healthcare and pharmacare was short by somewhere silly like $10 billion.
Okay, so, I'm going to let Benjamin Jenkins in on this discussion. Benjamin?
Yes, I'd like to add as well that a lot of the reduction in healthcare funding was done under Harper, I believe, and the Liberal government refused to reverse that in terms of health transfer funds. So I'm wondering what Scott has to say about that in particular as well.
All right, Scott, would you like to respond?
Thanks, Karen. Yes, we're increasing healthcare transfers $60 billion over the next 10 years. And, I've also championed a hospital on various phone calls with South Lake. I've spoken to Bradford Council, Georgina Council, and as well as East Gwillimbury Council, if we can harness where the new Bradford bypass goes so that we could see a second hospital, a cottage hospital from South Lake.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to another question. This one I'm going to ask Michael Lauder with the People's Party of Canada. Does your party have a child care policy? And if so, why is it a better platform?
We don't have a child care policy.
Okay.
So answering that it would be a better platform is redundant, I guess. Childcare, we want to do $10 a day childcare across the country. That's fantastic. My kids went into childcare. I would have loved to have had that money. I know young parents are coming out going, how am I going to afford this? And it all comes down to how far can you stretch a paycheck? Well, the reality is if you want to have a national childcare $10 a day, it has to be subsidized from somewhere. Guess what? Your paycheck just had an added tax so that we can now pay for that. I don't mind doing my fair share of paying taxes. But if it comes to the point where we're touting this $10 a day childcare, but eventually everybody's paying for it through a tax and through a secret inflation tax, it doesn't actually save anybody any money.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Benjamin Jenkins from the New Democratic Party to answer this question next.
So I know what it's like to be raised by a single parent. I know what it's like to have to, I've been the child in that particular scenario. And having a parent who is overly stressed, who is just, who has to work and look after kids is not a great situation. And if we want to get people to work, if we want to give people the maximum opportunities to act in their life as they see fit, we need childcare. So the NDP has committed to a $10 a day childcare platform to make sure that people can get out there and live the lives that they want to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott Davidson, the Conservative Party of Canada, will go next.
Thanks, Karen. And strong families provide the bedrock of our society, and Conservatives want nothing less than to make Canada the most family-friendly country in the world. And we will support childcare by converting the childcare expense deduction into a refundable tax credit, covering up to 75% of the cost of childcare for lower-income families. Then this is going to massively increase the support that low and middle-income families receive.
Thank you very much. Daniela Johnson with the Liberal Party of Canada, you go next, please.
Yeah, so, as an expectant mother, affordable, accessible, quality childcare is an issue that is at top of mind, not just for me, but, many families. And the Liberal Party commitment to $10 a day childcare is huge and something that the Conservatives won't deliver on. As a matter of fact, the Conservative Party wants to eliminate thousands of childcare spaces. So, Scott, what do you say to families, to single parents on that? How do you defend your party's decisions when Ontario has, the highest childcare costs of all provinces? What do you say to that?
Do you want to respond?
Oh, thanks, Karen, and thanks, Daniela, for the question. I would first say that the Liberal Party of Canada has promised childcare since 1996, and you actually put your own childcare $10 a day plan in jeopardy by calling this election, this unneeded election. So you've actually put your own childcare plan in jeopardy.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to the next question. With the pandemic having cost Canadians approximately $1.5 billion a day, what is your party's plan to rebuild Canada's economy in the aftermath of COVID-19? Please be specific about your plans. And I'm going to ask Benjamin Jenkins with the New Democratic Party to answer this question first.
Oh boy, that's a big one to get through in a minute. So to get us started, first, if we're going to rebuild our economy, we need to make sure that we have customers to buy things moving through our economy. And that means that people need to have money in their bank account and a roof over their head and not be worrying about that. So the NDP has committed to continuing to support unemployment insurance and wage subsidies going into the future as we fight our way through the pandemic. Now, in terms of getting us back on track, the best way to do that is by making sure that there are buyers willing to get production moving again. The Canadian government is going to become the largest purchaser of electric vehicles and non-emission vehicles. We're going to help the provinces start building their transportation infrastructure. We're going to make sure that when these jobs do come in, that they are good paying unionized jobs that pay a decent wage. And we are going to make sure that as we start to build back, we build back as justly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask Scott Davidson with the Conservative Party of Canada to go next, please.
Well, thanks, Karen. And I'm going to try and get as much out as I can in a minute. But we are going to get Canada's economy back on track. First, we're going to introduce the Canadian Job Surge Plan to get Canadians back to work. The Conservative government will pay 25% of the salaries of new hires for the next 6 months after the CWS expires, and cover 50% of the salary for those who have been unemployed for 6 months or more. We're going to launch the Rebuild Main Street tax credit that will provide a 25% credits on amounts over $100 that Canadians personally invest into small businesses over the next 2 years. We're going to support the hardest hit sectors by COVID-19 by eliminating the alcohol excise tax, providing a 50% rebates to patrons to get Canadians to come back and eat out and support our restaurants. We're going to support workers by introducing $1 an hour wage for working Canadians and provide financial security for gig workers and promoting training initiatives.
Thank you.
So much to say on that, Karen.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to Daniela Johnson from the Liberal Party of Canada next.
Great, thanks, Karen. Our federal Liberal government has stepped up, but yet our region has been underrepresented, and that's why you need a champion to fight for you. When we look at the pandemic, 8 out of every $10 that were spent on this pandemic were spent by the federal government. Your Conservative provincial government wasn't there, and a Conservative federal government wouldn't have been there either. My job as MP will be to do more. To support businesses to recover, programs like the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, those are programs that have helped. And I've had conversations with local businesses who have expressed appreciation for that support from the Liberal government. And as we move forward, we'll continue to create jobs and hire workers and make sure that we are there for our small businesses and ensuring, a strong recovery for the economy.
Okay, thank you very much. Michael Lauder, the People's Party of Canada, will go next.
Thank you. So based on the Liberals stepping up, we are now over $1 trillion in debt that's being paid for every day. Every child that is born today will still be paying the debt when they graduate college. And then expanding it and continuing it under an NDP government, making sure that we don't have people who want to go back to work. That we've had a problem with restaurants in this area trying to hire people because people would rather sit at home and claim their SERB and their benefits. That does not open up the economy. The way that we're going to open up this economy is by opening up the economy. And we're going to stop all these corporate subsidies and inefficient government interventions and bailouts that is costing the taxpayer money. The government doesn't become the largest buyer of EV vehicles. The people of Canada becomes the largest buyer of EV vehicles. We're the one that foots the bill. Nothing is government funded. And until we realize that, we are going to be taxed to the point where we can't afford anything anymore.
Okay, thank you very much. Benjamin Jenkins would like to respond, and then Daniela, I'll go to you.
Just start by saying that you're talking about national debt, but Canadian household debt, thanks to programs like SERB, has fallen, at least non-mortgage related debt, has fallen to the lowest it's been in quite some time. And when you talk about restaurants not being able to find workers, that's putting a lot of blame on people who ostensibly, many of them have changed jobs since the pandemic started. A lot of them will have found other work that didn't rely on them being out in public. And many of them don't want to come back because being a restaurant worker is one of the most dangerous jobs at the moment. It's where you are most likely to catch COVID. So you're putting a lot of blame on the wrong people here.
All right.
So
Thank you.
I'd love to answer that one.
Okay. Can I go to Danielle first, and then I'll go back to you, Michael? Danielle, next.
Thanks, Karen. I just want to note that, we have a fiscal anchor that our Liberal government has followed. And my question is, what would you have cut? Would it have been CERB payments to the single mom, or the rent subsidy that allowed our local small businesses to keep their storefronts open? Or maybe the benefits that were provided to students? At the end of the day, families have felt the impact of the support that our Liberal government has provided. And really, to me, I'm just thinking, what would you have cut?
That's okay. Michael?
Yes. All right. So I'm not blaming restaurant workers. I am saying that restaurant workers are not returning to work. I have spoken to restaurant workers. I have spoken to restaurant owners, and they are trying to get people to come to work. We have all these protocols in place now. People want to have this vax passport so that you can go to a restaurant. So there's protections in place. So it is saying that it is the most dangerous place to work is inflating the situation and saying that nobody's responsible for their own health and their own well-being. We don't have to cut funding for anything. We don't have to cut anything. What we should have done was it should have been a temporary measure. We can't keep going and keep spending money that we don't have.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Now, we don't have a lot of time left, so I would like only 30 seconds for this answer to this particular question. How would you balance public safety and security with our desire to be fair and compassionate hosts when welcoming new immigrants to Canada? And I'm going to go to Scott Davidson first. 30 seconds, Scott.
Thanks, Karen. And Canada, our economy, we are a welcoming country here in Canada. And I'm so proud in Canada to have so many immigrants, and especially right across York-Simcoe. I will always champion immigration in Canada. And, we have a responsibility with all the new immigrants coming in to provide those housings that we need and those critical infrastructure pieces that we need in Canada. Sorry, I just saw the time.
Okay, Daniela Johnson, Liberal Party of Canada, next, please.
I'll say I started my career and have spent quite a bit of time, working to support the settlement sector, working to support the successful integration of immigrants and refugees into our communities. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that we are working together, working in partnership to ensure, that successful integration. And that's what I'll continue to do, and work with communities to make sure that everybody is safe and has an opportunity for the future going forward.
Thank you very much. Michael Lauder, People's Party of Canada, next, please.
As a welcoming country, as Scott said, we are very welcoming for everybody. We have programs in place that help immigrants get settled. Knowing that we have a housing crisis at this point, trying to get immigrants into homes at the same time as balancing our current Canadian homeless crisis that we're facing is a challenge. And in order to fix that, we recommend that we start reducing the amount of immigrants that are economically beneficial to Canada.
Okay, and Benjamin Jenkins from the New Democratic Party, next.
So I'm just going to say I am an immigrant, and everyone's saying Canada is an extremely welcoming country. Welcoming to some perhaps, but immigration is difficult, and it's not going to get any easier. The Liberal government itself has predicted that its backlog for asylum seekers is going to double over the next few years, especially after multiple countries have withdrawn from Afghanistan. We need to hire more people who can process these immigration applications as fast as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Now that concludes the question and debate portion of the evening. And at this point, I'm going to ask our candidates to present their closing statements. And we will begin in reverse order with Scott Davidson first, please, with the Conservative Party of Canada.
Thanks very much, Karen. Thanks to the Georgina Chambers, Rogers TV, and all the candidates tonight. It's been an honor to serve as your Member of Parliament for York-Simcoe for the past 2.5 years, and I am asking for the support of York-Simcoe voters once again in this important election. This election is really about how we get Canada back on its feet and rebuild our economy, our jobs, and our way of life. There is a simple choice. Canada's Conservatives will focus relentlessly on jobs, wages, and getting Canada's economy and finances back on track as quickly as possible. Or we could have a reckless coalition again of the Liberals, NDP, Greens, and Bloc, who wanted unaffordable spending commitments that would leave Canada with unsustainable levels of debt and unemployment. Canadians are tired of the recklessness and arrogance of Justin Trudeau, who is out of touch with the needs of community like ours. Canadians want certainty right now, accountability, and a real solid plan to secure the future of our country. I am confident that with our plan, Canada's recovery plan will make a real meaningful difference in the lives of York-Simcoe residents and all Canadians. And I am confident that I am the most experienced, capable person to stand up for York-Simcoe to work hard every day to ensure your voice is represented in Parliament. I look forward to earning your trust. Once more, I believe the best days are still ahead of us. We can ensure that our country is a better place for our children and our grandchildren. On September 20th, I need your vote. Vote Scott Davidson, 1T. Thanks very much, Karen, and thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to go to Benjamin Jenkins with the New Democratic Party.
Thank you. So I want to begin my closing statement by again saying thank you to everyone. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for organizing this. Thank you to the workers behind the scenes who make it possible. And thank you to everyone who has watched to the end. We've spoken today about some of the problems that we are facing, and I hope that what I have said has helped you see that you are not alone in wanting a better world. More than that, I hope I have convinced you that a better world is possible, not merely the one we have tinkered around at the edges, but a truly improved vision of what might be. In my opening remarks, I spoke about how the challenges we face and our individual weakness can make us feel isolated, powerless, abandoned by the leaders who are supposed to help us. I once felt like that too. The antidote to that poison is standing up and taking action, and joining others in fighting the good fight. Today, as I sit here, I want to tell you that you are not alone, and I am not alone either. In coordination with 5 other NDP candidates whose ridings abut Lake Simcoe, I'm pleased to announce that we are forming the NDP Lake Simcoe Coalition, a group of candidates who have all agreed to support one another in the shared ambition of protecting our communities and our environment in the face of climate change. Together, we can act on common issues for the common good. This sort of solidarity is what binds the NDP together, and I promise that if I'm elected, you will see this sort of unity on all matters that affect our riding: housing, workers' rights, Indigenous rights, and the guarantee of youth a future and old age security. We will stop giving mega corporations welfare and spend that money on a better world for you and those you love. This will benefit everyone because something that benefits one of us so often benefits all of us. My name is Benjamin Jenkins, and I hope that on the 20th, you choose to vote for a better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Michael Lauder from the People's Party of Canada to go next, please.
Thank you very much. And of course, thank you to the candidates for coming out and standing up for what you believe in. I know that the campaign trail can be really tough and tiring, but getting our voices out there is something that we need to do. And I'm a firm believer that no matter what our political stripe is, there's going to need to be collaboration across the board to keep York-Simcoe growing in a responsible, sustainable manner. We have development and environmental plans which have been put on hold due to lack of funds or simply by lack of planning from all levels and completely different political views on how things should be done. York-Simcoe is a home to a very diverse economy. We have agriculture, tourism, we're a dormitory town for larger city areas around us, and we do have some manufacturing. Each industry has its own challenges and its opportunities, and it's our job to take those opportunities and challenges to Ottawa and make sure that they are heard, dealt with, and built upon. Our extensive waterfront access, Lake Simcoe, the biggest lake outside of the Great Lakes of Canada, brings in large groups of tourists every year. And while we can continue to welcome tourism, we must do so responsibly and maintain good environmental practices to keep our waterfronts clean, viable, and welcoming. We need to continue working with local partners to address ongoing concerns and mitigate new potential issues. The Keswick Tourism Association has seen a significant decline in memberships due to the lockdowns. companies that largely relied on outdoor entertainment spaces in the summers have now suffered very largely during the lockdown period. We have the opportunity to keep working and making York-Simcoe one of the most sought after parts of Ontario to do business in and to live in. And we have the track record to prove that. And as long as we do it responsibly, we can do it sustainably and continue to grow.
Thank you very much. And Daniela Johnson with the Liberal Party of Canada, next, please.
Thank you, Karen. And I just want to thank the Georgina Chamber of Commerce for organizing and hosting this debate, and to my fellow candidates as well. Thank you. As we end this debate, my question to each of you who are watching is, what have we learned today? I've listened, and what we've learned is that everybody deserves to have a say, and it's that simple. We should all have a choice in where we are going and what the future looks like. As a community, I ask, what do we need? We need unbelievable, passionate, smart representation. We need someone to fight for us, to be effective, and to deliver. Ask yourself, what do you deserve? You deserve representation at the big decision-making tables, someone who will listen, and you deserve someone who will champion your challenges and your cause, and who will be able to communicate those issues at the big tables in order to get things done. Sure, we're all nice people, friendly faces, but that's a big job. And that's a job that requires the right person, a person with a seat at the table, a person who will be able to be an effective leader and who will listen and then make sure that your voices are heard. In order to move forward, we can't afford to take any steps backward. And that's why you should vote for me, Daniela Johnson, because this is our time. Thank you.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have. And I want to thank our candidates for their participation, and the Georgina Chamber of Commerce and Rogers TV Georgina for their partnership. As I mentioned earlier, you will have the ability to watch this debate on TV and online. It will air multiple times on Channel 10, live streamed on rogerstv.com and on Rogers TV YouTube channel and on georginachamber.com right up until Election Day. And I would also like to remind you that you can tune in on election night, as we will be covering the results of the election close to home and across the country. Thank you to our audience who is watching from home. We hope these discussions will be helpful when you cast your ballot on September the 20th. Now, all you have to do is get out and vote. Thank you for being with us here on Rogers TV Georgina. For more information about the debate and election day, visit georginachamber.com/election. Thank you again.